With Mac Jones being traded for a 6th rounder, we have to ask the question, could Justin Fields be facing a similar fate? And just possibly, have we been overvaluing what he's done in Chicago? Let's talk about that and more right after this. You all know who I am. This is your boy P.kidd. This is the Windy City Breeze coming back at you with another video, man. Listen, we appreciate everyone who's actually subbed. We ain't making it across the big 3-0 without you all. So we appreciate everyone that's actually subbed and tuned in with us. We're trying to make it to the big 4 this time. And again, we appreciate everyone who's done it and helped us get there. All the P1s, we definitely appreciate your support. Let's get into the topic, man. Realistically, Mac Jones today, being Sunday, that is, was traded for a 6th rounder. He is now officially going to be the backup to his one of his own individuals within his draft class, Trevor Lawrence. And it is a sad situation to see how that's unfolded. And to be honest with you, it's one that I didn't foresee for him to be traded to Jacksonville of all places, but it happened. And it begs the question, could this be potentially the same future that Justin Fields is facing if he is traded? And is this pretty much telling us that maybe we've overvalued what he's done in Chicago? And the league is pretty much telling us that we need to come back to reality. The reality of it is maybe. I'm not going to sit here and compare Mac Jones to Justin Fields because I do feel like both of these individuals had bad deals. I'm going to sit there and say this. Mac Jones may not have had the same ceiling as Justin Fields, but he got off to a hotter start. His first season was better than Justin's first season. He had a nice infrastructure for his first season. It was there. They didn't have a whole lot of weapons, but he had a better line. And again, he was able to make some noise. Coming in second in Offensive Rookie of the Year, only behind Jamar Chase, I think nearly 3,800 yards. The kid actually had a promising future as a solid starter in the NFL. You could argue whether or not he was going to be top 5 or not. That's not the point at this particular juncture of this video. We're just saying that he got off to a hot start. And we all know what happened between Bill getting too cute, not liking the kid, and pretty much showing his disdain for it. Robert Kraft having words with and stuff like that. The kid got a raw deal toward the end. When your DC becomes your OC and no one knows what the heck is going on, no one can sit there and say that it was all Mac Jones' fault. Now, Mac Jones didn't help himself toward the end, which is important that we highlight. But he did have a lot to actually to fight against and a lot to contend with that no one can ignore. What the heck does that have to do with Justin Fields? A lot. The reality of it is Justin's career is kind of flip-flopped. Justin's last season was probably his best season, but even then he still had up and down moments, and to which we even had a whole conversation as to whether or not we should start Tyson Bagent. Now, again, that was more of the fan base and some people just not liking Justin for whatever weird reason. Let's be honest with you. I don't want to sit there and go too far and say the R word on that one, but it was just weird. It was just a weird 4-game stretch. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it happened. It was up and down, but it was still turned out to be his better year. And I could sit there and say outside of the Green Bay game, he did show promise. But the season before then, he ran more than he passed by some people's metric. And the year before that was a complete wash because Matt Nagy. At the end of the day, was there progress? Yeah, I think it was. I can give him that credit. But was it enough? And does the circumstances around him matter? And considering how other people are being dealt in the league, I would say probably not. And that's the sad part. This is where the rubber meets the road when it comes to reality. There's other QBs who are in really bad situations who are who are going to get cut or going to get traded, moved, or going to be backups, and they probably deserve another bite at the apple. I've said this before in the Windy City Breeze, and I'll say this again. Sam Howell, first year as a starter, put up a lot of numbers, led the league in yards at some point. At one point throughout the season, he was 17-9 on touchdown to INT ratio with good yards behind him. He was cooking. And if you look at it, against some of the best teams in the league, he absolutely lit it up. Unfortunately, he ended the season 21-21. a 1-on-1 ratio, and he had some very regrettable or forgettable moments, if you want to say it like that. But it was his first year starting. They had no run game, had no offensive line, no matter if you want to sit there and say he had a few weapons. He was in a bad situation. And when the other team knows you're not going to run the ball, you can find yourself in a situation where you throw some picks. And that's what happened. You compare that to Justin Fields, teams knew we weren't moving the ball. Teams knew what we were going to do. They called the plays out for us. They knew when we knew when the screen passes were going to come. So at the end of the day, we know that they were bad moments. But the Commanders are probably going to move on from Sam Howell, who in his first season arguably had a better first season than Justin Fields as a starter. And this, I think, is only second season starting. By the way, his offensive coordinator got fired for how he handled that season. And Eric Bieniemy is a good offensive coordinator. At the end of the day, doesn't matter. They had their scapegoat, and because they have the number 2 pick, the Commanders may very well be even moving on from him, making a play for Caleb, probably even taking Jaden Daniels. If the Bears take Caleb, they're moving on for a quarterback simply because the experiment didn't work. The numbers probably weren't what they expected it to be. And they have an opportunity to probably get better, and they want to try. Is it right? Probably not. But is it reality? Probably so. And that brings us firmly to where we are with Justin Fields. Is it right that he got a raw deal? Absolutely not. Is it right that, hey, realistically, it didn't work out? Luke Getsy showing us that he wasn't really a good OC, but just someone that was in the room with Aaron Rodgers, coming here and, doing what he did. Probably not. But some could even argue that, hey, Luke Getsy got another job very quickly because maybe the league saw Justin was limited and couldn't execute. Some could even argue, and again, very weird time, that Tyson Bagent moved that offense a little easier. The offense looked a little more fluid with him behind it because he got the ball out on time. He made little short plays, did enough to keep you in the game, not enough to lose it at times until you ask him to do too much. That's the clear difference between him being D2 and Justin being D1 and all that stuff. And you can probably see it. Those arguments were there. It's not my own words. Is it right? Probably not. Is it reality? Probably so. And when he comes down to it, Justin Fields may absolutely be traded. He may not get another bite at the apple for the Chicago Bears. In fact, this is not something I'm saying. This is something that he even alluded to in his last presser for us at the end of the season. And so, hey, listen, this is on his mind, all this stuff. We've heard it all, right? But could he end up being a backup? And when you look at the other teams that need QBs, when you look at the free agents this year on offense, when you think that Kirk Cousins, who may be a free agent, who I don't think is leaving Minnesota, but hey, who does? Russell Wilson, who had a better year than people are giving him credit for. I think he was on par, especially the last 2 seasons, over Baker Mayfield, who just got $100 million over 3 years. I mean, you go do the numbers, it was comparable. I mean, Russ was top 10 in several statistical categories second half of the season for sure. Russ is not finished by any means, but a lot of people, even in our fan base, would say that he's washed, and he's just simply not. But guess what? He's on the market. He may take a vet minimum and get paid by the Denver Broncos to play somewhere else, which is crazy, right? So it's just timing and all this stuff. Where does Justin go if we trade him? I'm not saying that he deserves to be treated like Mac Jones. I'm saying that the reality is he might end up like it. And so at the end of the day, maybe we do. Maybe the league is trying to tell us as Chicagoans that as much as you love Justin, as much as you all love and can identify with what has happened in Chicago with Justin, that maybe our reality of him, our perception of him, does not match up with the reality in NFL. Because as Colin Cowherd would like to say, he was last next to Zach Wilson in several of these categories. And as much as I like to fight that, as much as I would want to fight it, He's not wrong. Justin does come up there. In fact, we have to call a spade a spade. Some of Justin's best highlights are him running, not passing. And that hurts because I want to defend him as a passer because I am actually a Justin fan. Now, here's the thing. People say, no, you're not, P.kidd. I really am. I'm a Justin fan. I just see the reality of the team. I see the reality of the situation. And I've said it before, Chicago was not ready for him. And before we put him in the backup carousel, I would rather him go somewhere and get everything that he deserved when it came to showing up the way he has, being a professional he's been. I haven't heard anything disparaging coming from his camp or anything like that. He's been the consummate professional when it comes to how he's handled this tough situation. And I applaud that. If you really know me, you know I love that about a person. Shows me a lot about that character. And for me, that's he deserves better. All if you really know me, all I have to say is 1 year with Matt Nagy. You know how I feel. Ruined that kid. And that's what happened. Ruined that kid. So is my reality of Justin? I know I say things comic for comic relief on the show, but my reality is I do feel like Justin was given the short stick. I do feel like Justin was done dirty. I do feel as if Ryan Post tried to make it right, but it may have been a little too late. Because at the end of the day, that 1 year, Luke Gadsby, all these particular failures, all of these things were real. And at the end of the day, you have to decide his future. Am I picking up this 5th year? Am I going to go into contract talks? Am I going to tie a significant amount of the cap to him within the next 2 years? What am I going to do there? And I don't see a future where Ryan Post does that unless he saw clear, definitive evidence that Justin could be the guy. And unfortunately for Justin, he didn't necessarily show that. So when you ask me, could he end up like Mac Jones? I say no. He's not going to be a backup to someone he was in the same draft with. But could he end up in a situation like Mitchell Trubisky, who was a backup to maybe a more elite quarterback? Possibly so. And that hurts to say because I do wish and I do have higher aspirations for him. And I know he does, right? I know this is the thing. But the NFL might be telling us, hey, these numbers don't match. These numbers in our reality don't match your perception. And Ryan Post may be facing that. And that is actually what's being rumored around the league. And it's sad and it sucks. But I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear how you ultimately feel about what's happening, how you feel about the Mac Jones trade and how that could potentially be impacting Justin and this whole QB thing as well. Because we're not going to spend too much time talking about it, although it's going to come up randomly. And that's unfortunate. But at the end of the day, it moves on. And if we do draft another QB and he's successful, we're going to forget about this tenure, just like we did with Mitch, just like we did with Jay, just like we did with Rex. We're going to do it because we're Bears fans. But whether it's left, whether it's right, put it in the comments, man. I'll be in there with you. See you all on the live.